essentially, I want to argue that all of us are involved in public ministry, uh, however dramatic or mundane it may be.
Hi, I'm Joey Hartmann-Dow, and I'm the artist behind the Constellation of Witness Friends Incubator for Public Ministry book of Quaker Stories. And here we have Ben Pink Dandelion, who is contributing a piece to the book, here to talk a little bit about what public ministry means.
Okay, thanks for having me along, Joey. So I'm Ben Pink Dandelion. I work for Woodbrook, where I've been for about over 30 years now, the Quaker Learning Centre in Birmingham, in England. Um, and as well as studying Quakerism, obviously I am also a Quaker, and I suppose in looking back over that time of teaching, I'd say it's been a time of public ministry. And it's really exciting for me to be involved in the incubator and the support of public ministry more widely. The piece I'm writing actually makes 3 points. One is really that public ministry needn't be this kind of, really kind of public and dramatic, uh, high profile kind of activity. Secondly, that it's not limited to a few. And thirdly, that it might not involve a kind of life-changing moment. So essentially, I want to argue that all of us are involved in public ministry, uh, however dramatic or mundane it may be. As Quakers, we all have different gifts, we all have a different ministry, and in that sense that we're trying to live our faith daily, we are all involved in public ministry. So it's both not necessarily dramatic. It might be about bringing the milk to meeting or making sure the chairs are in the right place or, you know, just being nice to folk in the street, that kind of thing. Secondly, therefore, it's not limited to a few. And thirdly, I go through four kinds of ways that God might call us uh, to lead our lives of ministry, to enact our ministry. Um, And I can just run through those really quickly for you. I mean, the first would be where we think we have no choice, or where we don't have any choice. I use the example of Mary being told she will have a son and he will be called Jesus. The second is where we think we have a choice, maybe like Moses. And Moses keeps coming back at God and saying, "Well, I don't know if I'm the right person, or how would people even know that I'm being called by you, and I don't even know what to call you, and I can't speak." And each time God comes back and says, "No, I've got a response for that." So in a sense, Moses doesn't have a choice, even though Moses thinks he does have a choice. The third kind of call is maybe where we do have a choice and we can really take it or leave it. It's a kind of a holy invitation, a suggestion that we could do something, but we needn't. But the fourth kind of call, and this is the one I'm interested in through my own personal experience, is where we find that we've actually already been living out our call, even when we haven't known it to be the case. So I use the example of the film It's a Wonderful Life, where James Stewart plays a character called George Bailey, and he's constantly trying to get away from the town. He wants to see the world, he wants to travel, but every time he's about to do that, something happens in the town that calls him back, or it happens in the family business. And so he's constantly pulled back. And after some really major crisis where he feels his life has not really come together in the way he's hoped, the business is in crisis, he says it would be better if I'd never been born. And this is a huge spoiler if you haven't seen the film, but at this point, an angel appears and shows him what the town would have been like had he not been there. And we've seen his life from childhood to adulthood, and there's been so many ways in which he's helped people over that life that suddenly he comes back into this town as if he hadn't been born, and it's a totally different place. His brother has died because he wasn't able to save him from drowning. Other people have died or fallen on terrible times. The town itself is just a wretched place. Um, and he has this vision, and in the end, he says, "No, no, I want my life back." And he's able to then run home and find indeed that all the townsfolk are helping him out in the crisis in the way that he's helped them over the years. So I say he's actually been living the life he was meant to be living. He's been living his ministry. He hadn't realized it. He always thought he was meant to be somewhere else. And that was very much my experience. I went to work at Woodbrook, which at that time was a residential center. I was going to travel the world, and instead people kept coming to Birmingham, which is a little bit like, I don't know, Chicago, I suppose. I mean, and then leaving and going to all these supersonic, distant, wonderful places, and I was left behind. And each term was kind of hard, and surely this wasn't what I was meant to be doing. And I think it took about a decade to realize that this probably was what I was meant to be doing. And whilst I'd initially thought I was not a teacher, that actually I did have teaching gifts, I had educational gifts that could be used for the service of the Quaker community. And so, like George Bailey, I think I was living my ministry without realizing it. And it and it may be we just need to rethink and reframe the way that we think about our lives of faith.
Surprise public
And
ministry.
yep, yep, public ministry. We're all involved in public ministry. There we go.
So did you have a moment?
Well, I've had moments. I mean, I had a major spiritual experience on a Greyhound bus in 1986, but that wasn't a major moment of realizing, I was involved in a public ministry. That was me realizing I was going to live an accompanied life, perhaps already had been living an accompanied life.
Hmm.
That I've been in kind of a conversation and a dynamic relationship with what I call God since that point. But it's taken a while. I mean, stubborn kind of person, taken a while for me to really understand, I think, what I'm to do with what I've been given,
I think that's true of
spirit-given gifts.
a lot of people's
Mm,
experiences.
yeah.
But I
I
think
mean, I
there is
want,
this
yeah.
conception that there's this one life-changing moment, and that's can be true for some people, but it's not true for everybody.
No, and I also in the piece talk about serial call, that we may be called to one thing at one moment in our lives and then to something totally other, and maybe from our really high profile kind of ministry to something fairly mundane and regular and local, or the other way around. And we're just, we need to be constantly open to the Spirit to see where we're being led.
That's very reassuring
Okay,
because I
good.
think a lot of young people feel stressed about not knowing what they want to do with their life and not having this one thing. And that feels like, having the opportunity to see it as, oh, this is fluid. It comes and goes. It can't,
Hmm.
what I'm doing that feels important, that can be intersectional. It can be a lot of different things
Sure.
at once. It can be one thing at a time. And it doesn't have to be this, one life-changing moment.
Absolutely. Or one lifetime ministry, or one, yeah, we don't need to know what we're going to do with our lives.
Yeah.
We just
And
need to be open.
I think that's one thing I'm so excited about with this book is to show just the diversity of experience
Mm.
with this. It's not just, doesn't look just one way.
Yeah, sure. No, no. I mean, yeah, everything is ministry if it's spirit led. Great. And, Thomas Kelly talked about living the whole of our lives as prayer, and that's certainly my aspiration.